Mislim, da smo plus minus zbrani. Zelo verjetno se nam bo še ne vem kaj za IBM-a pridružila, ker je v hiši, ker je najbliže, ne, se spodobi, da malo zamudi. Tako res dobrodošli, vesela sem, vsakega posebej in vseh skupaj. Ko vas gledam, bi delala seznam. Ja, bi naredila točno takšnega. Točno takšnega, ja. Tako da res sem prav za vsakega vesela, da je danes tukaj. Z nami je zelo zanimivih par dni. Mislim, da smo obe z Dano že kar malo utrujene, ampak se bomo potrudile, da narediva tudi danes stvari nepozabne. Naredili smo v bistvu tudi danes malo drugačen uvod, tako da nas bo Tomaž za svojima varovankama popeljal v to druženje, tako da se malo zmehčamo. Danes mi je bilo jasno, zakaj rabimo ta uvod. Jaz ga rabim, da se skuliram. Verjamem, da tudi vam ne bo škodil in da bo dober uvod v ta dan. Da bomo lahko kar nadaljevali, mogoče res par besed, zakaj sploh ta teden, zakaj Dana v Sloveniji. Mislim, da se bo Nataša spomnila, kdaj smo prvič imeli v rokah Danino knjigo. Jaz mislim, da je bilo tam davnega 98. Ko smo prvo prevedeno knjigo Spiritual Intelligence brali. In teh 20 let, ja, se mi zdi, da je takole minilo. Jaz sem Dano prvič srečala 2006 v njenem obisku v Sloveniji in ob izidu njene druge knjige v slovenščini, Duhovni kapital. Bila sem, ne vem kaj, sem napovedala, da bo prišla, ne vem kaj tudi z nami. In sem v torek že delila to intimno zgodbo. 2006, kljub temu, da sem že 8 let spremljala njeno delo, sem bila tako res, kako bi rekla, kar malo nesamozavestna, strah me je bilo in nisem pristopila k njej. Tako da sem jo samo poslušala, odšla domov, vsa inspirirana in se še bolj intenzivno lotila raziskovanja in prebiranja tega, kar je Dana zapisovala in vseh njenih učenj. In 2013 sva se z Andrejem skupaj napotila na prvi trening v Oxford. In letos v maju, februarja in maja dokončala tudi master degree za leadership, quantum leadership. Tako da kakor dolgo potovanje se mi zdi. In ta teden sem dojela, ja, Katja, ob tvojem mailu, da vse mora priti v pravem času. Da nisem bila verjetno pripravljena prej to narediti in da zdaj je pravi čas. Zakaj pa v bistvu sploh Dano pripeljati v Slovenijo? Mislim, da zato glavni razlog je bil to, da to deliva z vami. Pravi, da nisva, že vse mešam angleščino in slovenščino, selfish, egoistična, ampak da to deliva tudi s vsemi vami, za katere veva, da počnete stvari drugače, da raziskujete, da iščete in da se dodatno inspirirate z Dano v živo. Tako da to je bil eden res glavnih razlogov. Čeprav vsak od vas, ki je kdaj kaj podobnega organiziral, ve, da to ni tako enostaven zalogaj, psihično, fizično, ja. Ampak jaz sem vesela. Vsak dan sem bolj vesela, da je tako, kot je. In res mislim, da je prostor pripravljen na vse nas, da začnemo še bolj pogumno delati preboje. In se še bolj pogumno razkrijemo v tistem bistvu, ki je v nas. In delujemo res iz svojega bistva in iz svojega srca navzven. Tako da ne bom več časa krata.
Sem 2 stavka, še dodam tisto, kar sva tudi hotela komunicirati. In sicer imamo res izredno priložnost, da sem vesel, da smo v tem krogu, ker Danah bo se v prihodnje veliko bolj sfokusirala na pisanje tistega, kar ima še v sebi in kar nam še hoče sporočiti. In zato bo veliko manj priložnosti, da bo hodila po državah in predavala, ker je drugače razprodana. Ona je, rekel, gostujoči profesor na 3 univerzah na Kitajskem, pa bila še na 20, ampak enostavno pri svojih letih ne more. Ima pa še toliko nam za sporočiti, toliko raziskav ima že narejenih, nekatere stvari zdaj bo pisala v knjigi, ki jih raziskuje 25 let in bi zdaj spravila knjigo, druga že nastaja v konceptu, tako da taki priložnosti, v takem intimnem krogu z njo biti je, rekel, izreden privilegij. Tako da smo zelo veseli, da to deliva. Slovenija je tle privilegirana, ni slučajno. V Sloveniji smo že kar nekaj časa na poti, nekaj nas je takih, se povezujemo, se delajo počas preboji in Slovenija je lahko tudi po mnenju dr. Zoharjeve tista, ki bi lahko naredila primer. Se pa zdaj javljajo že Švedske, že ne vem vse posod in zadeve so se začele bistveno premikati. Tako da dajmo to izkoristiti. Na koncu, jaz ne verjamem, da bo po tem v formalnem delu dosti priložnosti za vprašanje, čim več vprašanj, čim bolj odštekanih vprašanj, ker kot pravi Danah, vprašanja, da rekel, so ta pravi odgovori in čez vprašanja pridemo do tistega pravih spoznanj. Tako da uživajmo.
Gospod Baš, nam boš predstavil?
Lahko kar vsi.
Ile mlade dame lahko.
Lep pozdrav, sem Tomaž Bole, sem glavni tajnik ustanove Galus. In sem zelo vesel, da nas je pravzaprav, da sta nas Ksenijo pa Andrej povabila, da damo en glasbeni uvod v današnji dan. Jaz bi rekel, da zelo se strinjam in sem vesel, da bomo tebe podprli, ne? In hkrati pa mislim, da meni je moj vzornik Wolfgang Findeisen, ki je profesor waldorfske pedagogike, nekoč rekel, vsako srečanje, tako kot je današnje, bi se moralo začeti z glasbo, da se ljudem odpre srce in da so dojemljivi za tisto, za komuniciranje in za tisto, kar lahko novega zvejo ali pa dajo. Ustanova Galus podpira mlade glasbene talente, za katere nekako meni, da imajo možnost mednarodne uveljavitve, mednarodnega preboja in postanejo naši kulturni ambasadorji. Več v ustanovi imate v teh listkih, tako da ne bi govoril, bi pa par besed povedal o glasbenicah, ki sta danes z nama. Doroteja Senica je naša varovanka in ta trenutek, lahko rečem, se nekako smo, je naša zvezda, ne, in smo zelo veseli. Flavto igra že od 8. leta in že pri 15 letih je bila sprejeta na Mozarteum, kjer je zdaj v 8. semestru profesorja Mihaela Martina Koflerja, s katerim bo tudi nastopila 10. novembra v Slovenski filharmoniji z madžarskim orkestrom in pa na letošnjem Miklavževem koncertu Rotary kluba Ljubljana. Tekmuje od 10. leta, za njo je vrsta prvih mest na različnih državnih in mednarodnih tekmovanjih. Ima tudi med starejšimi vrstniki, se pravi v najvišji kategoriji je bila najboljša, največkrat je dosegla 100 točk in seveda dobila tudi posebne nagrade, kar je recimo koncert s Slovensko filharmonijo, potem snemanje za program Ars RTV Slovenija, nagradni nastop v okviru ciklusa Mladi virtuozi festivala Ljubljana. Sodelovala je tudi že s celovečernim recitalom dvakrat na festivalu Lent in letos, kot sem že rekel, Mladi virtuozi. Je prejemnica tudi Zoisove štipendije in je mladi up zavarovalnice Triglav. Sara, ali pa bom prav, kje veš?
Ja.
Je svojo glasbeno pot začela s 8 leti na glasbeni šoli Lendava in nadaljevala na konzervatoriju v Mariboru. Ravno tako je prejemnica več nagrad na državnih pa mednarodnih tekmovanjih. in kot nagrajenka državnega tekmovanja je sodelovala v čudovitem projektu izdaje zgoščenke studija Piano Room Zlati pianisti. Če vam kdaj pride to pod roke, vam priporočam, da imate to, pa poslušajte. To so sami naši najboljši mladi pianisti. Zdaj študira na Akademiji za glasbo v Ljubljani v razredu Aleksandra Serdarja. Zdaj, za današnji uvod sta pripravili 3 skladbe, in sicer najprej 2 solo za flavto, Bachova partita in Paganinijev 24. kapričo. Skupaj boste pa potem zaključili še z Montijevim Čardašem. Kot človek, ki se ukvarjam s poslušanjem glasbe, predvsem s tistim delom klasične glasbe, kjer se mi zdi izredno pomembno, da jo poslušamo, ne pa gledamo, vam predlagam, da pri Bachu zaprete oči, če želite, ampak priporočam, pa poslušajte, lahko poslušate vse zaprete očmi, ampak boste drugače doživljali, kot pa če boste, lahko gledali boste pa še lahko vas dan naprej. Medtem ko, torej, za uvod smo nekako eno mirno Bachovo skladbo, potem je že malo bolj temperamenten Paganini, da bomo imeli pa dovolj energije. Ves dan, ne samo do konca tega današnjega srečanja, bo pa Monti. Tako, zdaj pa hvala lepa in kar prosim, predajam glasbo.
Samo malo logistike, pa smo v akciji. Že dobro ovadno, ne? Teden. A lepo daljše lahko spiš?
Ja, se da jih fišni.
To vam potegnem?
Jaz sem gor bom kabel potegnil. Eden. A ne gre?
Ne.
Ja, čak, bom malo ga je treba stigniti.
Ne?
Ne more, no, sem zataknil se.
Ok, eden gre, ja. Ko je, da ga damo čez? Jaz bom pa tole pa jo pa bo šel vse enkrat. Evo.
Super.
Kabel si rekel, da rabiš, ne? Ja, pa kje pa rabiš? Pa ga vtaknem nazaj. Ja, ja.
Imaš vse.
Ja, vse že tle. Če se boš, da ne bomo tudi prvi potem.
Do you need anything else?
No, not now.
Okay, we are ready? Yeah? Danah, we are ready.
You've already introduced me and all that in a language I didn't
Yeah,
understand.
a little bit.
Okay.
That you are a great. So expectations are really nice,
Okay.
not big, nice.
Well, good morning, everybody. Because they spoke in Slovenian, I have no idea what kind of a preliminary has been said, so I may repeat things, but I'll introduce myself anyway. You can tell from my appalling American accent that I must have grown up in America. I have lived in the UK for the last 46 years, consider myself British, or at least I did until Brexit. I deeply apologize for my country. I'm going to talk to you today about my own passion for quantum physics, which I hope to share with you and impart a bit of to you. I will explain to you what quantum physics is and why you should care about it. and introduce you to, hopefully, a new way to think about absolutely everything. Your personal lives, your social lives, and your business lives. I was born and raised in America by my very religious grandparents, and for the first 11 years of my life I was a very good Christian, and that provided me, as religion can, with a framework. Religion exists because it answers the big questions that we all ask. Where do I come from, and who am I, and what should I do with my life, and how can I be good, and what happens to me when I die, and essentially because we all ask these questions, I think is why religions have come to be. But I was also, as a child, very interested in science, and by the age of 11, I could see that there was quite a strain between the way science might answer these questions and the way the minister in my church was answering these questions. And I pretty much lost my faith in the religion by the age of 11. For a couple of years, I just felt lost. Now, no framework. My grades in school slipped. I became a bit aimless. And then at the age of 13, by accident, I discovered quantum physics. My mother bought a book for a boy in my class as a birthday present. And after the bookstore, we had to go to the laundromat because I'm a lot older than all of you, and in those days we didn't have washing machines in our homes. I was very bored, just sitting there while my mother washed the clothes, and I read the book. And it was called All About the Atom. And it just simply blew me away. And I begged my mother, don't give the book to him. Let me keep it. Get him something else. And that book and the things I then learned afterward changed my life, formed my life, and are the reason I'm here today. Even at that age, though I was far too young to understand all the complex equations and intricacies of what goes on in the quantum laboratory, I could see that this was something fresh, this was something exciting, this was something different. It took me into a level of reality I hadn't realized existed. And as I grew older, through my teenage years, I came to find in this way that quantum physics describes the universe a new kind of answer to all those big questions that especially teenagers ask. I mean, it's at that time of life, it's really important to think about who am I and what should I do with my life? Why am I here? I went to MIT to study quantum physics, intending to be one of those laboratory mice. But I found when I got there that what really interested me wasn't so much the physics that goes on in the lab as the philosophy and really whole world view that is suggested by what quantum physics says about the universe. Now, already you may say, okay, she's excited by it, but why should we be? We're business people, and what the hell has quantum physics got to do with me? And you even may be saying, what is quantum physics? So I'll try to explain both. Until the 20th century, scientists believed that the world was made of atoms, and that the atom was the smallest thing in the universe. therefore an atom was, Newton described it being like a billiard ball, hard, impenetrable, nothing could get inside it, nothing could come from inside it. No two atoms could get inside each other because they're hard and impenetrable. And that was it. The world is made of atoms. And then at the beginning of the 20th, well, at the end of the 19th, Pierre and Marie Curie discovered X-rays. Something was coming out of this atom. They called it X-rays because they had no idea what it was. And then a few years later, as the 20th century began, other scientists discovered quite a few things were coming out of the atom. Wow, what is this? The atom can't possibly be the smallest thing. It can't be, solid and impenetrable and the essence of the universe. And as science went on, today we realize that there are at least 65 smaller particles within the atom, that indeed the atom is an entire universe, a whole micro-universe in its own right, with its own laws, its own description of the universe, its own way of describing reality in general. And that was the birth of quantum physics. Why was it called quantum physics? Well, Newton said the universe is made of atoms, stuff, things, bits of matter. Quantum physics discovered that's not true. The universe is in fact made of energy. Everything in the universe is, when you really understand what it is, a pattern of dynamic energy. This microphone, these lights, this table, you and I, the building, everything that exists, including atoms, are patterns of dynamic energy. The particles within the atom are particles of dynamic energy. And the word quantum happens to mean the smallest amount of energy that can make something happen in this world. And it's the smallest step possible in any kind of action or behavior anywhere in the universe. And that's where this word, greatly misunderstood word, quantum leap comes from. A quantum leap is not, as it's usually used, a very large leap. That's how people use it. Oh, he made a gigantic leap. It was a quantum leap. In fact, a quantum leap is a leap from one energy state within the atom to the next energy state, or to a still higher energy state. The smallest quantum leap is one quantum of energy. There's not much limit to the largest quantum leap. But when you make a quantum leap, you're moving from one state of reality to another. One kind of atom to another kind of atom. It literally changes the identity of the particle. What I hope to bring about in you this morning is hopefully a big quantum leap, but at least a quantum leap in your understanding of yourselves and your lives as business people. Why should you be interested? Okay, this sounds fascinating. Now I know the universe is made of energy, and she tells me I'm made of energy, and that makes me tingle a little bit and think maybe, but what's it got to do with business or my life? First of all, she's talking about the atom, and the atom is so tiny I can't see it. And all this strange behavior the scientists discovered is within the atom, and we're big. The world is big. Well, within just the last 15 years, scientists have realized that even on our level of reality, if you really understand how something is working, it's quantum. And one famous scientist from Oxford University recently published an article in Scientific American called Living in a Quantum World. Our world is a quantum world. You and I are quantum systems. Everything we touch, feel, interact with is a quantum system. And I'm going to argue with you today, from my work, that your organizations, your companies, your institutions have the potential to become the quantum systems that they naturally are. And I want to tell you what that means as we go on. But come back to what has all this got to do with business. Okay, well, you're a quantum system. That's a hint. If I really want to understand my company, I have to understand what makes quantum systems different from Newtonian systems. But in fact, all of you, all of us, even the young people in the room who may have just come out of an MBA program, I suspect have been taught the Newtonian worldview. Because all of human history, people have looked to what was thought to be the science of their time for their model of what our lives are like and how we should behave. In Chinese philosophy, it was said 5,000 years ago in Taoism, the way of heaven is the way of man, the Tao of heaven is the Tao of man. And pretty much all the world's religions have thought that. Whatever goes on up there, whoever's running the show, runs us and our lives. Science was very undeveloped. The ancient Greeks made quite a good dent in it, but then it got lost in the Dark Ages. Religion took over as the main understanding of how the universe works, though Christianity itself drew its cosmic picture from the current understanding of the cosmos. But until the 17th century, Europe, the rest of the developed world, pretty much lived in a world of ignorance and superstition, because there wasn't anything other than religion to explain why things happen as they happen. So if there was a bad storm that caused a lot of damage, people would think God is angry. Or if you're in Asia, the gods are angry. They're letting us know it with thunder and lightning and strong winds and things. If I became ill, then I must have displeased God, and he must be punishing me. This was the metaphysics of the religious world. And people lived in a lot of fear because the gods, particularly when there were multiple, but even the Hebrew God of Christianity, could be a bit whimsical. You never knew what his mood was going to be or what he was going to do to you. So people didn't have much sense of control or really deep understanding of why the world works as it does, except that that's the way God wants it to work. 17th century, along comes Isaac Newton, and he says, look, it's all very simple. You can know everything, you can understand everything, you can predict everything, and you can control everything. All you need is what I have discovered, the 3 simple laws of motion and the law of gravitation. If you know these 3 laws and the law of gravitation, you will always know where something has come from and where it's going to go. You can predict, if you know enough about the weather, when there's going to be a storm. And as science went on, the Newtonian model seeped into medicine, and we could begin to see the signs and symptoms of illness, and scientists discovered bacteria and viruses, and we knew why we were ill, and we could fix how to become well in most cases. Now it's almost hard to imagine how this must have hit people 300 years ago. To suddenly be told, it's not up to the whim of God or the gods. It's not all mysterious. We're not all helpless. All we have to do is understand physics, and we can control the world and help ourselves and protect ourselves and so on. So it wasn't just Newton's physics that then affected things, but this worldview that the world is simple, law-abiding, predictable, and controllable. It became the worldview of, at least at that time, the Western world, and then later as the Western mind expanded to other parts of the worldview they wanted to adopt. And in the West, every major thinker for 300 years after Newton wanted to be the Newton of his or her field. So Sigmund Freud. Newton said the universe is a giant clockwork machine. At the beginning of time, God wound up the machine, and forever after, it just ticks on inexorably. Everything is determined. There's no free will in the universe. It's all laid out, and if you know the laws of motion, you can find it. Freud took this notion that the human psyche is a bit machine-like, like a hydraulic system. And he imagined the psyche as having three forces within it, just as the universe has forces within it. So in the basement of the self is the dark id, with the destructive forces of sex and aggression. And up here above the self is the superego, with the strong, overwhelming forces of societal expectation, parental expectation, the 10 Commandments, the thou shalts and thou shalt nots. And in between is my conscious ego, pushed from below by the forces of the id, impinged upon from above by the forces of the superego, and still, like an atom in Newton's universe, I'm a helpless victim. My life is determined by my childhood events. I am not a victim of forces so much, but of my childhood. John Locke and John Stuart Mill, who invented liberal democracy, idolized Newton. Indeed, Mill said at one point in his writings, I owe everything I have become to the incredible Mr. Newton. And just as Newton conceived the universe as consisting of atoms, and of each atom being isolated in its own place in space and time, each atom being unable really to ever know another atom. Indeed, Freud called us objects to each other. He had a theory of objects relations. Because you're an atomistic object and I'm an atomistic object, Freud said that the commandment to love thy neighbor as thyself, the ideals of love and intimacy themselves, are impossible expectations. Because how can I ever love another object or know another object as I know myself? And in liberal democracy, where the individual is considered the atom of society, the rights of the individual become primary. The duty towards society is there somewhat, but through a contract that the individual freely signs up for. So the individual is the most important thing. Even as recently as the 70s, Mrs. Thatcher in Britain announced, there's no such thing as society. There are only individuals and their families. She didn't want any of this socialist nonsense. And you see here the seeds of what has become almost an epidemic in our times of loneliness, alienation, depression, the disintegration of the community, the family, and the kinds of addiction and mental illness to which this loneliness and alienation is leading. A fragmentation of life into individual bits. And psychiatry and psychotherapy have mainly become studies in self-obsession. You go to a psychotherapist and they talk about who are you, what's good for you, what will make you happy. I saw one at a time when I had some troubles, and she counseled me to leave my marriage because I was unhappy in it. And I said, oh, but I took a sacred vow to stay with my husband for life, and I feel I should work this out. And she said, oh, no, it's not good for you. You must think of you. You must think of what's best for you. And almost any therapist will say that. What fulfills you? What makes you happy? It all becomes about self-obsession. In capitalism, Adam Smith admired Newton. Capitalism is founded on two assumptions about human beings. The first assumption is that people are selfish, and the second assumption is that therefore people will always act for number one. And because of this selfishness and the greed to which it leads, you can predict the forces that are active in the market. So you get the foundations of the market economy and of rational economic theory. It's all predictable. It's all, again, controllable, or at least predictable. You can analyze the market and see, based on human psychology, that everybody's going to go out for himself. What's going to happen? And the whole market is driven by the chance by greed, by the chance to make a lot of money for me or my shareholders. In management theory, the Scottish engineer Frederick Taylor, again, wanted to be the Newton now of business theory. He called it scientific management. And this is what you will have learned, whatever it was called, if you've been to business school or done an MBA. That the company now is a machine. That the company has laws and forces within it. That the company consists of separate working parts. The production department, the marketing department, the advertising department, R&D, sales, etc. Separate departments, controlled by, as a Newtonian machine is, the top, from the top. All power is at the top, and the CEO and his board of directors, senior management, the power slowly drifts down. And the workers in the company are considered units of production. They've been given a swish name in recent times. They're now called our human capital. That is the wealth that these units of production, who we happen now to call human beings, can bring to the company. How can the worker benefit the company? And I'll say more about, I'm going to talk about the difference between Newtonian and quantum before lunch, and after lunch I'll zero in much more on the Newtonian versus the quantum organization and talk about how the quantum leader is different and his or her leadership is different. And then the last thing that's affected us and is affecting us all today is that AI and cognitive science, neuroscience even, decided that we're mind machines, neurochemical machines, electromagnetic machines. We're walking computers. We switch on, we switch off. We're programmed for success or failure. We blow our fuses. It's seeped into the metaphors of our language. In school, we're teaching kids to think like computers more and more, because then they'll be more efficient on these machines we're inventing. The human mind is being modeled on the computer instead of the computer being modeled on the human mind. So everything that we are breathing in like the air is Newtonian. Whether you have ever heard of Newton or physics or ever thought of physics or anything, you're Newtonian. It's in your DNA. And it's in business DNA. Well, things have changed today. We don't live in a world that is simple, orderly, law-abiding, predictable, controllable. On the contrary, everything seems out of control at the moment, particularly since 2008. We live in a world that is complex, rapid change, uncertainty, chaotic. And today's scientists are telling us that you don't control chaotic and complex systems. They're self-organizing, and the way to work with them is you have to see yourself as part of the system and go with the flow, that there's an inner logic to systems. Indeed, as I will point out, or I'm pointing it out now, the new science of the 20th and 21st century actually points out that when you impose outside control on a self-organizing system, you destroy all of its magical creative properties. Everything that, and we are self-organizing systems. Literally, I mean, biology today will tell you, their phrase for it is that all living systems are complex adaptive systems. And that's everything from a bacterium to the leaf on a maple tree to us. Anything alive, a biologist would call a complex adaptive system. I call them living quantum systems because they have all the properties in lifelike form that a quantum system of something inanimate has. And we'll come to understand these properties as I contrast Newtonian with quantum. But one of the lessons that I'm going to hope to bring home to you today is the absolutely damaging effect of this control from the top and what it does to the potentiality of your organizational system and all the people within it, including the leader himself or herself. So quantum physics was, the basis of it was discovered in around 1905. The scientists who discovered it didn't understand it. Einstein was one of them and even got the Nobel Prize for it, but he hated it. He called it spooky and ghost-like. He said it was Alice in Wonderland physics, schizophrenic physics. They didn't know what they discovered. It wasn't as we understand reality. Things aren't connected in quantum physics by forces, for instance. They don't communicate through signals. According to quantum physics, the world is not made of atoms, but of energy. I don't think you're going to be able to see this in this slide, frankly. No, you're not. I think I'm going to draw it. You won't, or you can turn down the light?
Just put down a little bit the curtains for the...
Yeah, because these lights really bring home to you visually what I'm trying to talk about.
Just for a few minutes, just to see it, and then because of the recording, it would be good to...
Just leave them down for a while. We can see each other.
Because of the recording.
Oh, the recording. Can you now begin to see the light? Those of you at the back?
Okay, sorry.
Okay, if you could look through a quantum microscope and see what a quantum system looks like, what inside an atom looks like, it would look like this light. If you could see yourself through a quantum microscope, you'd look like this. You have a particle-like center, which is like an individual within you, and you have all these waves of possibility or potentiality, which are a part of your essence, through which you relate to the future, to your surroundings, and to others. So if you turn on two of these, I'll do this strongly. You see what happens? Now, according to quantum physics, there's no such thing as separation. Separation is an illusion. Quantum physics says the bits of reality are not isolated. In fact, we live in what physicists call an entangled universe. Everything in the universe is part of everything else. Everything in the universe affects everything else. I am you and you are me when we're in relationship in this room. To a weaker but still significant extent, I am that Vietnamese peasant trying to take a boat trip to Thailand, or that Rohingya refugee trying to get into Malaysia right now. He or she, you, are not strangers to me. In the world of quantum physics, there are no strangers because you are actually part of my identity. I'd like to, can you see with the camera like this? Then it's better to leave it for a little bit because I can illustrate other things with these. If I gave you each one of these lights, you'd see that the illusion you have that you are 18 or 20 separate bodies sitting on separate chairs is not true. Each of us is putting out these quantum waves, waves of relationship, waves of potentiality. In this room, we are a field, a dynamic energy field. Just to give yourself a sense of it for a moment, put your hand on the shoulder of the person next to you so you're all connected. Just to give yourself a sense of it. Well, we've broken the quantum chain there, but you get the idea. That's what you're really like. You feel you're encased in your own body and your own psyche, but you're not. In fact, biologists have discovered we have something called mirror neurons. When I feel sad, you're going to feel sad. When I yawn, you're going to feel like yawning. You know, in a theater, when one person coughs during a performance and the entire auditorium coughs, we can't help it. The quantum field between us connects us, and we are one field. One system. That's what your company is, one field, one system. And that's how people in the company relate, one field, one system. So there's not an emphasis in quantum philosophy on isolation, either in space or in time, but on relationship. Literally, in the history of the quantum universe, it is relationship that makes reality. The first thing to happen after the Big Bang and the quantum vacuum, which I'll talk about in a minute, was things beginning to come together. The relationships between these particles, these early particles, are what made everything. It's the relationship between the elements of your body that makes your biological system function. Another Newtonian thing is our whole Western medicine. Go to a doctor, because I have a pain here, they'll send me to a stomach specialist. Have a pain here, they'll send me to a heart specialist. A pain down here, a kidney specialist. A problem up here, a psychiatrist, and so on.
Here is the guy coming from hospital.
Try to find a doctor in the West who knows the entire biological system. At one point I had to take Prozac. And on Prozac I was experiencing all kinds of symptoms as the years went by. I had chest pains. They sent me to a heart doctor. Then I had problems with my digestive system, and they sent me to a gastroenterologist. And so on. Finally, at a conference, I met a doctor who'd studied some Chinese and holistic medicine. He said, "What medication are you on?" And I said, "Prozac." And he said, "Well, of course. Prozac upsets the intestines and the stomach. That creates gas, which puts pressure on the lung, on the diaphragm, and gives you the symptoms of heart problems. I had irritable bowel syndrome. That was because of the Prozac." He said, "Stop taking the Prozac, and I think you'll find you can stop seeing all these specialists." And he was right. But it took a doctor who'd gone outside the Western medical paradigm to think of me as a system, as the relationship between my parts, and how one thing in my body affects another. Today it is at least understood in medicine that mind and body aren't completely separate. We know today, any doctor will accept, that stress affects physical health, depression affects physical health, a low mood, a lack of motivation can affect your physical health. The immune system simply doesn't work as well when we're in a low state. And they've discovered that a lot of stress in your life is one of the contributions to things like Alzheimer's. Stress hormones cross the membrane that protects the brain from things in the blood, and the stress hormones cause this furring up of the neurons that lies at the heart of Alzheimer's. And is Alzheimer's more common because we're living longer? Or is Alzheimer's more common because of the stressful lives we lead? That's a question I leave with you. But try to chill. So it's an emphasis on relationship instead of isolation, and an emphasis on context. When you're in relationship, you have to think of the things around you. Newtonian physics, Newtonian worldview is atomistic, everything is separate. Quantum philosophy says it's holistic. Everything impacts on everything else. Everything is part of everything else. If I do that, literally that, just that, it actually causes something to happen 800 or 900 million light years away on the other side of the universe. Why? And this is what upset Einstein. Because things don't communicate in the quantum world by forces and signals. Quantum physics predicted that if I have a proton that is polarized this way, and another proton that's been shot out of the same gun, at the very same instant, it will always be polarized that way. That they're always coordinated, always synchronized. And Einstein said, this is impossible. You can't have instantaneous action at a distance because nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. For this to know what this is doing, there has to be a signal. And no signal can travel faster than the speed of light, i.e. no signal can be instantaneous. Quantum physics is wrong. And he spent his whole life trying to prove it. Wasted all that brain power in trying to prove quantum physics wrong. And in the 1970s, experiments were finally able to be done, and lo and behold, quantum physics was right. Why? Because Einstein didn't understand the quantum entanglement. He didn't understand that if this particle-like aspect of the atom is instantaneously synchronized with this one, it's because they were never separate in the first place. They're just two parts of the system that have moved off a bit. But there's no separation in space and time and no separation in distance. They're still parts of the same system. So this quantum non-locality is what's happening between us when you feel sad and I pick it up, or when you yawn and I yawn. We're living all the time in this quantum field. And I'll talk this afternoon after lunch about how that influences the ways we structure and lead our organizations. At the end of the 19th century, physicists were bothered by the big question, is light wave-like or is it particle-like? Some of their experiments showed a stream of particles, and other of their experiments showed a series of waves. And they were stuck on it. It was the only thing left that they didn't understand. And then quantum physicists came along and said, look, guys, you're just looking at it the wrong way. Light isn't wave-like or particle-like. Light is wave-like and particle-like, and as the light shows, at the same time. At the quantum level of reality, there isn't any either-or. Everything is both and. This is a complete upside down of Western logic. Aristotle said something is true or it's false. An apple is an apple or it's not an apple. Something is black or it's white. The Western mind tends to be like this. Christianity, Islam, Judaism all say there's one way, one best way. My God is the best God, or my God is the only God, and my God is the only way you can find salvation. Otherwise, you're a pagan, or you're an infidel, or you're a sinner, and you don't count. One of the reasons, it was a really big turning point for me that I had left religion, was my mother made me go to Sunday school, and when I was 10, the minister was talking about how Jesus saves us, and Jesus gets us into heaven, and you have to know Jesus to go to heaven. And I raised my hand and I said, well, that doesn't seem fair, because all these people in China have never heard of Jesus. Can't the Chinese people go to heaven? And he emphatically said, no, they can't. The only way to heaven is through Jesus. And to my 10-year-old mind, that just sucked. I thought, that just simply doesn't make sense. And it was one of the things. And if you think about life, are things black and white? Are things simple? Are things either or? As business leaders, you'll say, shall we do this strategy or that strategy? Shall we make this decision or that decision? Shall we concentrate on this product or that product? This afternoon, I'm going to tell you about a company that concentrates on all the products and makes all the decisions all at once. How many of you love and hate your partner at the same time? Common. We've all experienced it. And we love and hate ourselves at the same time. And so on. Things aren't black and white. They're not either or, they're both and. Truth is subtle, truth is nuanced. In this sense, quantum thinking is very like the way the Chinese have always thought. And when I talk about this work in China, they love it. They get it, just like that. Indeed, the Communist Party sees my work as a scientific validation of traditional Chinese thought. So I'm allowed to say the things I say in China even, which sometimes amazes me. If they really understood, they wouldn't like it. But, so things are both and, not either or. Now, this is going to bring us to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and the next important difference between Newtonian and quantum. I said that they could do an experiment that shows light as a particle, or they could do an experiment that shows light as a wave. Even with quantum physics knowledge, that's still the case. You have a beam of light, a beam of photons coming at two slits in a barrier, Open one of the slits, only one slit, the light will come through as a stream of particles and go click, click, click on a photomultiplier tube. Open both the slits, the light will come through as a series of waves, interfere, and make an interference pattern on a screen. The experiment I do causes light to show the face of itself, decided by the question asked in my experiment. And this is the basis of the most famous principle in quantum physics, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Heisenberg is saying, not unlike Newton, you can't know everything. You can't predict everything. You can't control everything. Because quantum reality is multifaceted, and you can only extract out of it one of its waves at a time. When I ask a question, I elicit that answer. But if I ask a different question, I elicit this answer. Another question, this answer. The questions I ask determine the answers that I get. And this leads to a different philosophy again of learning in life and how to run a board meeting and how to think. We go for the answers. We should be going for the questions. Answers are finite, limited, and they change. Questions are forever, and questions have no ending. One question leads to another question. And every question is like putting a fishing rod into the pool of quantum potentiality and pulling out yet another little piece of reality, another fish. The more questions I ask, the more reality I actualize. When I was at MIT in my first year, on the first day, the dean drew the freshman class together. And one of the things he said to us was, we're not going to teach you many facts or give you many answers while you're at MIT. Because in the 4 years that you're here, the answers will be proven wrong and the facts will be out of date. The textbooks you study will be out of date. Instead, we're going to teach you to ask questions and to think with questions. Then you'll be ready for anything. And I thank God for my MIT education because it did deepen my own childhood tendency. Question after question after question. You can lead your thinking with questions. You can lead a more creative conversation by asking the other people questions rather than telling the other people answers or your point of view. You'll get to know another person better, not by saying, oh, I've noticed you're obsessive, but by saying, why is it that you keep getting up and shutting the windows? Question them. Make them think. Why do I do it? So on. And this leads to another, well, I first want to talk about the quantum vacuum and then the last principle, then I'll hold over to you. The universe is made of energy, quantum physics says. We're all waves of energy. What are we waving on or in? Water waves wave on the sea. Light waves wave in the electromagnetic field. Sound waves wave in air molecules. If we're waves, quantum waves, what are we waving in or on? And the answer is something called the quantum vacuum. 13.5 billion years ago, when the Big Bang happened, the first thing created in our universe was what physicists call the quantum vacuum. It is a sea of potential energy, a sea of potentiality, an energy sea. It's badly named a vacuum from our perspective because we think of a vacuum as something that's totally empty, like a vacuum flask. And the vacuum isn't empty. On the contrary, the quantum vacuum contains the potentiality for everything that ever was, everything that is, and everything that will be. You and I, in fact, however much I go around the room and ask you how old you are, in fact, we're 13.5 billion years old, every one of us. We're really well past our sell-by date, every one of us in the room. Because we were there 13.5 billion years ago as potentialities within the quantum vacuum. We got fished out of that sea by the fact that our parents, by mating, as it were, threw a fish rod into the sea and pulled us out. We weren't determined. It depended on the relationships. If my father had met another mother, I wouldn't be me, etc. Think how accidental it feels to you. You must wonder every now and then. I met my husband or my wife or my partner at a concert, in a camp, at a meeting. What if I hadn't gone to that meeting? What if I'd met someone else? I wouldn't have the children that I have. I wouldn't have the life that I have. It all depends on the relationships that get formed along a long chain of unpredictable, undetermined relationships. The quantum vacuum is a field of potential force that permeates everything in the universe. It is like the sea upon which everything that exists is a wave. Indeed, that's why it's called a vacuum, because the vacuum itself is totally still. There are no waves when it was first created. And to exist means to stand out from. But originally, nothing stood out from the vacuum. So therefore, you couldn't see it, touch it, weigh it, or measure it. Because anything you can see, touch, weigh, or measure is an excitation of the vacuum, a wave on the sea. The vacuum isn't up there or down there or over there or over there. It's within us, like the seawater is within our bodies. We're 2/3 seawater, well, we're 100% quantum vacuum. We are an excitation of the quantum vacuum. And every excitation is connected to and entangled with every other excitation. So if you want to know who you are, that big question, who am I? At the base level, you literally are a child of the universe. You literally do, with every thought, action, decision, feeling that you harbor or do, affect literally the entire universe. And you are, if you were looking for God within physics, it would be the quantum vacuum. Wouldn't be a God like the Christian God who was all-powerful and made the world at his whim, and controls the world and decides what happens in it. The quantum vacuum is a God that is potential and needs its waves to express itself. It needs its excitations, its existing things, to manifest, to turn potentiality into actuality. So if I were to write a book called The Quantum Christ, I'd say, you all have the Christ within you. It isn't just one incarnation, Son of God. We are all incarnations of the quantum vacuum. Therefore, each of us, our purpose in life, what defines us in life, is that you, are responsible for what potentialities manifest. And this is the last point I want to make before handing it over to Ksenijo. According to Newtonian physics, which has no place in it at all for conscious creatures, living things, it's entirely a physics of physical objects and atoms, the observer, the human conscious observer, who happens to be a bit of an inexplicable accident, can only stand back and observe the world. I can affect it with a force. I can make you wince if I throw my watch at you, because I'm making a force and a signal. But I'm not going to change you. I'll change the way you move, but you'll be you. Because the observer and the observed are absolutely separate. I am a passive witness to reality in the Newtonian world. In the quantum world, because I am a manifestation of the vacuum. I am the fisherman who plucks fish of reality out of the potentiality. I make the world. According to quantum physics, we live in a participatory universe. You and I are co-creators of reality. Quantum physics says there is no distinction between the observer and the observed. The observer and what the observer observes are part of the same system. And again, my lights show it, because if I do this, I make that aspect of reality. And if I do that, I make that aspect of reality. Which aspect of potential reality comes into being depends on me. My decisions, my actions, my feelings, my intentions, my motivations. Each one of us, therefore, is not a passive witness or a victim of reality. Each one of us makes reality, and each one of us is responsible for the world. We make the world in which we live. It's not the government's fault. It's not Donald Trump's fault, though a hell of a lot of things are. It's not my parents' fault. It's not my childhood's fault. 50% of what I am is genetic, but the other 50% is totally what I have made of my experience and the kind of relationships I form. The very way that my brain is wired depends on my experiences, my relationships, and what I've done. I wire my brain accordingly. And no two brains in the world are wired up the same. Every one of you and every one of the 7 billion existing people on the planet at the moment has a unique brain. Another reason that nobody can do what you can do. Nobody can take your place. And whatever you do is essential to the drama of life, to the drama of the universe. The janitor who sweeps the hallways in this building, the cleaning lady who empties the waste baskets, the tea lady who's going to serve us our lunch, are just as critical to the running of an organization as the CEO or somebody who's on the board of directors. There are in the quantum world no little people, no dispensable people. Everyone has his or her unique contribution to reality, to the way the world is. And Jung used to say, Jung was a big fan of quantum physics. He even wrote a book with Wolfgang Pauli called Synchronicity, which is about quantum non-locality, in which he said, if the world is a mess, it's because I am a mess. And if I want to make the world better, I make myself better. Because I'm like a transmitter. Everything I am, do, think, feel goes out into the quantum field, into the wave pattern that is the system that we all are. There are no strangers. There are no unnecessary people. Everybody has a role. Everybody co-creates reality. I'll stop there. We can either, I don't know how you want to run this, questions, or do you want to do an exercise?
Do you have any questions for Danah in this moment?
You can open the curtains now if you want to, if it makes filming better. Oh, I got this on voice.
Questions? Barbara? No? Not yet. Not yet?
Questions create reality, remember?
Andrejem?
I think maybe you'll have questions this afternoon when you've had a chance to digest all this over lunch. And
Would you like to change anything now?
huh?
Would you like to change the reality?
Okay. Then I will.
You can talk in Slovenian now, yes.
I will continue.
And lunch is at 1 o'clock?
Now,
Or when?
lunch we will have 2:30.
At what?
No, but you will have a break now.
I can have a break
Yes,
now.
with
So when
Andrejem,
should I
yeah.
come back?
1:15.
1:15,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And where is the canteen? Will Andre show me?
Andre will,
Okay, well, I'll leave all my stuff here.
Before you go,
You do have a
one
question?
at least one question to change this field of potentiality. We create our own reality, and with our intentions, with our minds. How intense these minds must be to really create this reality.
The more intense, the more energy you're pouring out. After all, intensity is nothing but energy. It means the frequency of the energy is higher. A strong signal puts more energy out into a field than a weak signal. When I'm writing a book now about the 5 big questions of life. Who am I? Where do I come from? Why am I here? What should I do? And where do I go when I die? And I'm writing in this book that I talk about how do I pray, because everybody is either consciously or unconsciously praying when you say, help me. But for me, prayer is going deeply into the quantum self, into the pool of potentiality that I am, and really intensely relating to the situation about which I'm concerned. Really focusing all my potentiality and ability to relate and affect the field, out into the field, rather than saying, oh God up there, please help me. It's more, what can I do about this situation? And that's what charisma is about. I mean, charismatic people, what are they? I mean, people say they glow like bright light bulbs. Well, that's literally what they're doing. Yeah, sorry.
I have one question. You mentioned the world is chaotic. Okay, why the world is chaotic? Because we can impact with the waves, and we as a human beings, we want for ourselves the best. So why the world is chaotic, the negative energy?
Because there are an awful lot of us, and it just is true in physics that a many-bodied system behaves according to the laws of chaos. But by calming our own, by making our own plans and lives coherent, we bring a bit of coherence to the chaos. So even though it's there in the system, I mean, quantum physics says the world is uncertain, like I said about your very existence. You only exist because your father met your mother. It wasn't determined in some blueprint that God designed. God, the quantum God, was feeling its way forward, and one of the things that happened to happen was your father met your mother, and you came to be. But it was all uncertain and undetermined and a bit chaotic. But now that you exist, you can lead a coherent, ordered life from positive motivation and from good intention, and bring positive energy into the field, and you do your bit. Let me tell I'll just come back later. Yeah. What does it matter? There's a Hebrew myth in Jewish mysticism about the reality and our place within it, and that bears on your question. According to this Jewish mystical myth, it's called the myth of the vessel. And according to it, there was a world before our world. And that world was a sacred vessel full of light. But then it became so filled with light and the energy that light makes that it could no longer contain itself, and it burst. And the fragments of light, the fragments of that vessel, spread through our world, fragments, and fragments are chaotic. And according to the rabbis, the purpose of human beings is to help reconstitute that sacred vessel, that world that created our world, or to put God back together, if you like. And how do we do that? They say, because they had a kind of intuitive understanding 350 years ago that relationship makes reality, they say we collect, there's a fragment of light in each one of us, they say. Here, every one of us has a fragment of that sacred vessel. Even if you're a monster, you have a holy fragment, a holy spark, they call it, within you. And the way to reconstitute that sacred vessel is to bring ourselves together in loving relationships. So every time I make a loving relationship, whether it's a romantic loving relationship, an unconditional love relationship with a child, a loving, compassionate relationship with another person, I am helping to heal reality, helping to reconstitute that sacred vessel. On the contrary, if I am negative, if I'm full of anger, full of greed, full of fear, full of ego and self-importance, I'm working with another force in the universe called entropy, which tears things apart, and I'm doing my bit to destroy. There are two forces in our universe, which are kind of the origins of good and evil, if you want to think in those terms. One is this destructive force of entropy that makes everything fall apart, and the other is the force of creation that is creating ever greater relationship and therefore ever greater complexity and ever greater information. When we work from positive motivations and positive feelings, we're working with the creative force. When we work from negative motivations, we're working with the negative force. In quantum physics, the quantum God, like is said in many of the world's religions, has two sides. He is both the creator and the destroyer, or it is. Hinduism, the Lord Shiva, the top god, is called the creator and the destroyer. In Islam, God has 99 names, one of which is the creator and one is the destroyer. In Judaism, God has 10 faces, and one of these is darkness, and so on. So even the world's religion, I think this happens because our consciousness was there at the beginning of the creation of the universe. I happen to think that the world's spiritual traditions over the thousands of years have simply been telling the universal story that makes all of us in the language, imagery, symbolism of its time or its culture. But if you study the creation stories of the world's, myths and religions, they're all very similar. In one of my books, SQ Spiritual Intelligence, I have 5 of these. And it upsets some people because if you're a Christian and believe my God is the only God, and you find out that everybody's saying the same thing, that's a little uncomfortable. But if you're quantum, it makes sense. Anyway, that's my answer to your question.
So currently more people are with this negative or destroying energy around, right?
Yes. Well, think about it. I mean, disorganized energy creates noise, static. It tears things apart. If Andre took me for coffee downstairs this morning, and they were blasting this awful music. And I thought, it was just tearing my brain apart. And I thought, I've got to be still to be ready for my lecture. And I asked the guy to turn it off, and he said, oh, no, it's normal. Well, in our culture, it is. Noise is normal. And it does scatter us and tear us apart, stop us from reflecting and being quiet and concentrating. Another way to bring order into our lives is to find that quiet space sometime during the day, at least at the end of the day. And I highly recommend it to all my audiences and to everybody that I train, learn to do mindfulness meditation. If you just sitting quietly and reflecting takes me 4 hours every night. You don't have 4 hours every night. You've got families and you got to get up to go to work. I mean, I'm lucky to live like I do. But for 20 minutes meditation, doing mindfulness meditation, you need less sleep, you have less stress hormones, your heart is healthier, and you find a coherent stillness within yourself. The brain's waves literally become coherent in a state of mindful meditation. And you can learn it in about 20 minutes. So it's just my little recommendation. Are there any other questions? Okay, I will now come back at 1:30.
Yep. Thank you, Danah. Okay. Jaz sem prej na začetku čisto pozabila povedati časovnico. Mi si bomo vzeli tam okoli 1 ure pauzo. Malo si bomo želočke napolnili s tem, kar je na mizi, tam je še malo sadja. Zato, ker 14:30 imamo en poseben privilegij, ne vem drugače, kako bi temu rekla, da gremo na kosilo skupaj z Dano v kantino od Outfita 7, v drugem nadstropju prodajna galerija, tako da vidimo, kako se prehranjujejo v outfitu. Me to zanima. Vegansko je, tako da po moje bo fino, fajn. Sicer ni nikogar iz outfita tu, ampak jaz sem se jim že, pa se jim še bom, tudi v vašem imenu zahvalila za to. Pa na tej točki ne vem, kaj tudi tebi, da si nam omogočila ta prostor, oziroma IBM-u. Tako da mislim, da bomo, ne vem, ker si mi pokazala, se mi je zdel idealna lokacija s tem razgledom.
Začetek pozitivne energije.
Ja, tako da je vam tak mali intermezzo. Kaj bomo delali do te pauze? Z Dano sva dogovorjene, da poskusimo nekaj tega, kar vam je ona predala, spraviti v prakso. To vse je delavniško, malo bolj interaktivno. Pa predno začnemo, čisto me na hitro zanima, kaj vam odzvanja? Kaj ste v bistvu slišali? Besedo, 2. Ne rabite celih stavkov, celih misli, ampak kaj vam...
Vsi povezani. Da smo vsi delali, ne, papir bomo vzela, bi še smeli vprašati.
Ja.
Da smo vsi povezani, v bistvu, jaz sem že doskrat poslušala to, pa brala se, kako ti delci v kvantni fiziki komunicirajo med sabo in nas me ona dala odgovor, ne. Zato potujejo hitreje od svetlobe oziroma takošnji signal, ne zato, ker potujemo, zato, ker smo vsi deli ene celote. To mi je dala odgovor, no, na nek način.
Ok.
Jaz pa razmišljam o tem, da pač polje vseh možnosti se mi zdi, da sem je jasno, ne? Potem, da je vse, kar se realizira, pač ena od možnosti, ki se je lahko realizirala in da imaš ti vpliv na to, kaj realiziraš. Tako glede na to, da smo povezani in da skupaj realiziramo marsikaj, lahko realiziramo harmonično ali disharmonično. Se pravi, kaj je tisto, kar ti v bistvu narekuje, kaj naj realiziraš, da bo to harmonično delovalo v celoti. Se pravi, ta odgovor nekako iščem, ali pa si domišljam, da ga imam, pa bi rada primerjala mogoče z njim, ali pa z vašim. Mogoče del, ki se na to navezuje in se me je dotaknil, je to, kako vidi prayer, se pravi molitev. Se pravi, povezovanje s tem nekim najglobljim delom sebe, ker ne če se ali gora, ali not, ali pač ta.
Nekje.
The one. In se mi zdi, da sem mogoče kar sama sebi odgovorila, da je mogoče dotik tega, odgovor na to, kako moraš reagirati, da bo tudi celota harmonična. Ne vem,
Si zelo blizu. Sam mal intermezzo. Bi bilo fino, da imamo mikrofon, ne, ker snemamo. Ja, Anja, boš nam asistirala? Ne zato, da se ne bi slišali, ampak zato, da posnamemo in se mi zdi, da je zelo pomembno, da res ujamemo vsako misel. Tudi vašo. Ok. Izvoli, Tanja.
To, kar je gospa povedala, ne, molitev. Molitev je zame tudi izredno pomembna, ampak v tem smislu, ne, da pri molitvi, tako kot jaz to razumem, sodelujete skupaj naš kritičen pa naša podzavest. Ne. Se pravi, kritični se odloči cilj, zakaj želi moliti, ne, čemu se želi posvetiti, to je namen. Ne. Potem pa skozi molitev, katero daš čustva, energijo, v bistvu vključiš naš čustveni našo podzavest, ne, in ko sta ta dva usklajena, takrat prihaja do teh manifestacij, bom jaz rekla, ali pa da kreiraš to, kar si želiš. Ne. In to, ko ponavljaš, ne, to v bistvu uspavaš pol kritičen potem pride ta podzavest, ki je izredno močna, jaz ne vem, ki je verjetno del tega vakuma kvantnega, in takrat prihaja do manifestacije. In zato so molitve res tiste, ki prihajajo iz srca, v katero daš veliko čustev, energije, ta prave, no, tako jaz to gledam. No. In to lahko vsak naredi eno tako fajn sugestijo, si zamisel in si jo kdaj ponovi za tistih 50 minut, da se umiri, no, mislim, pomaga, no. Lahko je za zdravje, lahko je za karkoli, no, res.
Lahko jaz sam rečem, recimo to zdaj, kar ste vi govorili, kar je kazala, ne, recimo, kako val potegneš, se to najbrž z molitvi ali pa z nečem umom, ne, je hotela nam ravno to pokazati, da v bistvu s tem začneš vleči ven val, ne, oziroma, ne vem, fokus nekega valova, ki ga ti v bistvu je takrat te pomemben, ne. Jaz sem to tako razumela tudi. In potem je to lahko fokus, recimo, ali je molitev, ali ponavljanje, ali je mindfulness, marsikaj, recimo, različni načini, kako te stvari potem manifestiramo. Jaz sem tako zelo na ta podoben način razumela, ja.
Bernarda? Ja. Trnek.
Ja, najprej moram reči, ko sem tole knjigo doma prebrala, sem precej časa jokala vmes, ker se mi zdi, da je resnica, no. Mislim, ne, da se mi zdi, ampak da vem, da je resnica, ne. 3 stvari sem si zapisala, da ne bi kaj pozabila. In sicer se mi zdi pomembno pač pri kreaciji, torej iti po poti misel, beseda in dejanje. In ko je to uravnovešeno, lahko zelo hitro kreiraš stvari. Problem pri večini ljudi je to, da niso v ravnovesju, torej kaj mislijo, kaj govorijo in kaj delajo. Ne? Če bi bili skozi mi v ravnovesju, bi šlo to zelo hitro. Potem, kar je meni pomembno, oziroma kakšne izkušnje imam jaz pri materializaciji, je to, kar je na koncu Danah razlagala, torej, da gre v sebe in v sebi najde to moč. Ne? In tukaj se mi zdi pomembno, koliko moči ima določena oseba v sebi in koliko jo potem spravi ven iz sebe, ven, da kreira določene zadeve. Meni je bilo zanimivo eno izkušnjo, ki jo bom z vami delila. Jaz sem pri Ogorevcu zaključila tudi šolanje karmične diagnostike in on je meni rekel: Bernarda, a veš, ti si tako kot en hrast, kar je sicer v redu, ne? Ampak ko burja močno piha, hrast zlomi. Je rekel, veš, v življenju moraš biti tako kot vrba, ne, torej, ko je veter, moraš se ravnati po vetru in prideš potem lažje skozi kot to, da si tako trdana, ne. Tako da to je mogoče ena taka misel za zaključek.
Hvala, Bernarda.
Mogoče, če že imam mikrofon, absolutno. Gre predvsem za razumevanje ali drugačno razumevanje vloge, ki jo nekako nosimo, ne, na svojih plečih kot vodje. Predvsem v smislu, kdaj smo v vlogi nekoga, ki prispeva k tej kreaciji, in predvsem kolikokrat smo v vlogi nekoga, ki pa krepi tole entropijo. To je zelo pomembno.
To samo spraševanje.
In ja, vse se začne pri sami komunikaciji, kako komuniciramo. Jasno, vprašanja so en del tega, kako komuniciramo, tudi včasih, kako dolgo komuniciramo. Ne? Kaj je tisto, kar povemo, še nekako nekje v smislu dosege tistega cilja, ki ga želimo doseči kot cela organizacija.
Super, hvala. Zdaj, mogoče tisti, ki poznate malo bolj moje delo, razumete ali pa boste razumeli, zakaj se še toliko bolj pogumno zadnjih 10 let ukvarjam res z odnosi, s posamezniki, odnosi in komunikacijo. In verjamem, da je to ključ za vse izzive današnjega časa. Zelo enostavno, ampak na koncu ne tako. Ali zaradi tega, ker smo tako unikatni.
V bistvu se vse začne in konča z odnosom.
Vse.
Odnos do samega sebe, odnos do vsega ljudi okoli sebe.
Ste me ravno malo prehiteli. Ena od zadev, ki sem si jo jaz res, ki mi je zelo zavibrirala, odnosi so kreacija. Ne? In vsakič, ko gremo v ljubeč odnos, s komerkoli zdravimo svet, sebe in svet. To je pri meni izredno zavibriralo. Pa to, če na samoorganizacijski sistem, ki je sposoben samoorganizacije, vplivamo z zunanjo kontrolo, to sposobnost samoorganizacije uničimo. In tle se mi zdi, da je to, kar si pa kot vodje
ne smemo
moramo zapomniti in razumeti, da ne moramo kontrolirati.
Super. Meni v bistvu res zadnje leto odzvanja to, da realnost ustvarjamo skozi odnose in skozi vprašanja. Samo te dve zadeve. Izvoli. Robert. Zdaj, tako smešno zgleda. Jaz poznam vse vas, a ne? Vi se med sabo pa ne poznate, verjetno, a ne? Ja.
Jaz imam zelo zanimivo štorijo, ker namreč jaz sem se najprej vprašal, ko smo začeli o tem kvantnem svetu govoriti, kako hudiča se sploh odločaš o tem kvantnem svetu. Vse leti tam, se pravi, ni nič ni definiran, nič ni nadzorovan, vse gore dole. Ne. In sve, kar sem že od fakultete naprej učil, zelo newtonski pristop, jaz sem konštal fakulteto za strojništvo, ne, tam je zelo newtonski pristop, tako in ena pot vodi do cilja, več poti sicer, ampak ena je ta prava in tako dalje. Ne. In to je zelo težko preklopiti potem v tem razmišljanju. Ne. Ampak ker pa delam, ker je Andrej tako omenil, delam v zdravstvu in delam na področju rehabilitacije, ne, imamo pa tukaj izredno holističen pristop. Ne. In ko začneš razmišljati o tem, vidiš, da je to pristop, o katerem govori Danah. Holističen pristop, pogled celega človeka, ne samo z vidika zdravstva, tudi z drugih vidikov sociale, njegovega okolja in tako dalje. Ne. In ko ta holistični pristop vleš, si bistveno bolj uspešen.
Hvala, Robert, za to. Izvoli, Nataša.
Zdaj smo se zagreli, bom rekla. Moja izkušnja je pa taka, v bistvu, ko poslušam Dano, mi daje veliko odgovorov, znanstvenih odgovorov na vprašanja, ki sem jih jaz imela. Jaz drugače sem celo življenje že v financah, računovodstvu, reviziji in tako naprej, ne? Ampak zadnja leta pač me pot tako zanesla in zdaj tu delam šolo za hipnoterapevte, ne? Mednarodno šolo se malo pohvalim. Ampak vse te stvari, ki sem jih jaz tam čutila in ki jih čutim, ko delam s strankami ali pa ko drugi na meni delajo, ne, si nisem znala razložiti. In to, kar meni Danah govori, ne, saj sem že prečasno začela govoriti, saj to je vse kvantna fizika, ne, da ne bi kdo mislil, sem čarovnica, ne. Ampak te stvari so dejansko tukaj. Ne. To mi je zelo zanimivo in pač jaz sem tudi analitičen in mi daje pol neko sigurnost, da to, kar čutim, da je to resno, da je tudi podprto s fiziko. No, tako.
Super, hvala, Tanja.
Jaz sem vsakič sproti, ko si ti prišla od Dane, čutila, da si enaka, kot si bila prej, ampak energijsko podprta. Pravzaprav, ker delava to na komunikaciji že od nekdaj. So to stvari, ki jih mi dve poznava, oziroma jaz poznam, zdaj v prvi osebi govorila. Jaz jih poznam, ampak danes se mi je razjasnilo vse tisto, kar pravzaprav na skupnih delavnicah ti z entuziazmom naprej predajaš. A ne? In še enkrat poudarjam, samo spraševale bova.
Nataša je moja zunanja sodelavka v BB Consultingu. Od prvega dneva sodelujeva skupaj, se pravi celih 17 polnih let, ampak sva svobodni, a ne? Pa vseeno povezani. Je tudi moja najboljša prijateljica, tako da zato lahko tako verjetno čutiva. Ja. A smo za en mali eksperiment? Ja? Ja, dej še Žano, njenemu mlademu. Veš, da se prav podprta počutim, ker sedim na stolu, kjer je sedela Danah.
Jaz mi pa dve stvari povedal. V bistvu, jaz sem že eno kvantno fizičarko spoznal že pred leti v srednji šoli, pa v bistvu en vic, no. Je profesorica rekla, ti imaš pa res vakuum v glavi, ne? Pa rekla, boljše to, kot pa nič. Tako da je dejansko imela prav, ne? Danes smo dejansko to potrdili, ne?
Super. To moramo Dani povedati.
V bistvu to, kar je meni ostalo en paradoks, ne, oziroma vprašanje, ne. Dejansko pač vidimo, da je vse povezano, ne, ampak naši umi so pa še vedno nekako nepovezani, nekako še vedno ne delujemo povezano, oziroma ali prihaja to skozi vzgojo ali skozi naše neke izkušnje, strahove, vseeno imamo neke barijere pri sebi, da se moramo učiti, da smo povezani, čeprav smo že povezani. In to je v bistvu to vprašanje, zakaj je ta barijera sploh tam, ne? Oziroma odkot nastaja, ne? Če pa smo že povezani.
Ja, to je zanimivo, to, kar hvala Bogu res v prostoru vedno več slišimo, da problem so naši možgani, leva pa desna, ne? In v sistem, v katerem smo gor zarastali, šolstvo, družine velikrat, ne? Vse okoli nas ima fokus na levo stran, ne? In zato smo tudi danes naredili s Tomažem to, da glasba je ena tista stvar, ki nam pomaga, da tudi desno stran prebudimo in da povežemo levo in desno hemisfero. In tega se moramo naučiti, tega povezovanja. Zato sem jaz tako hvaležna za vse te stvari, ki so v našem prostoru in jih res imamo veliko. V torek smo imeli na delavnici Nastjo. Danah pozna delo Debona, recimo. Ne? Nastja to, kar počne, dejansko počne nekaj, kar se moramo naučiti. Kljub tem, da potegnemo iz tega potencijala. Se pravi, mi to vse že imamo, samo na novo naučiti, ne? Ven potegniti. Ja. Tako. Je pa res, cel svet je zelo levo usmerjen, zaenkrat še pretežno, ne? Pretežno tako funkcionira. Zato se verjetno tudi vsi zavedamo, da je tisti izvirni greh v šolskem sistemu, ne? Pa strah. Zato, ker stvari, ki so nepredvidljive, ki ne veš, se težje prepuščaš, zato, ker ne veš, kaj bo. Veliko lažje je funkcionirati, če
strah se nekje razvije, ne, skozi leta.
Ja,
vse veste, otrokov nič ni strah, ne.
Tako.
Nekje nastaja ta strah, ne, skozi nek sistem, ki ga imamo. Ne.
Ja.
Za določene stvari je pa strah dober, ne, ker nam omogoča preživetje.
Tako.
Moramo spet plus pa minus, ne.
Definitivno, ja. Povezovanje.
Jaz sem pa razumel, Dano, da strahu ne rabiš, ne? Da pravzaprav s tem, ko dopuščaš, da te je strah, ne? Dopuščaš razvoj negativne energije. Ne? Zdaj, ko sem se že oglasil, jaz sicer imam navado, da se zadnji oglasim. Vedno riskiram, včasih zmanjka, kako bi rekel, energije, da bi še dodal, ampak eno izkušnjo pravzaprav, ali pa dve bi rad podelil. Ena je ta, kar me je zelo presenetilo, ne, jaz sem bil star 11 let, ko sem doživel nekaj podobnega kot Danah. Namreč jaz sem prebral vse, kar je bilo takrat pravljic v slovenščini, možnih iz celega sveta, in moj zaključek je bil ta: vsak ima svojega boga in sosedov bog je narobe, to se pravi, in ga je treba preganjati. Ne? In takrat sem dovedel, da ta svet je nekako naravnan na to, ne, da na sovraštvo, ne, na boj, da samo jaz imam prav, ti pa nimaš. Ne. In takrat sem pravzaprav podoben odnos do vere vzpostavil, ampak vendar sem neko tisto energijo, ki sem jo čutil, želel najti, kako pravzaprav imeti stik s tem. Ne. Jaz se od leta 98 približno ukvarjam intenzivno z odnosi. Začel se je seveda zato, ker žene nisem razumel, ne. In potem sem prebral vse živo in potem sem ugotovil, da je to super nasploh, ne. Predvsem pa za mene, ne. Sem pa že daleč nazaj srečal zanimivo se s transcendentalno meditacijo. Osebno sem se imel priložnost zelo srečati z ustanoviteljem tega, to je Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, zdaj že pokojni. In takrat sem ugotovil, da to je pač ena tehnika, ki meni ustreza, sistem pa ne. In skratka, spet sem prišel do tega, da čim se nekje nek sistem vzpostavil, se znotraj tega sistema pojavijo, lahko rečemo temu po domači špilferderberji, ki ga zlorabijo. In zdaj, kako pravzaprav nadgraditi to, da bi neki dobri sistemi, ki sicer funkcionirajo, lahko, kako pravzaprav se izogniti tem negativnim energijam. Pa mogoče, če ta delček sam zaključim, z eno dobro izkušnjo, ki smo imeli s skupinskimi meditacijami, jaz sem to malo tudi spremljal, kakšen močen učinek ima na neko okolje lahko skupinska meditacija, pa to je lahko tudi molitev. V bistvu gre za to, da uideš tistim mislim, ki te obremenjujejo in poslušaš tisto, pravzaprav, kar si. In se temu odpreš in to začneš vse podpirati in tukaj dobiš svojo moč.
Super, hvala. Kdo še?
To, kar sem slišal, glede na to, da sem kot otrok igral flavto 7 let, ampak ne tako dobro, kot gospodična.
Če bi to kvadil?
Jaz sem kar dobro vadil, se mi zdi, ampak ni bilo ta pravega talenta. Tako da, študiral sem matematiko in v okviru tega tudi kvantno fiziko, pa relativnostno teorijo, za kar takrat nisem imel pojma, zakaj bom to kdaj rabil. In mi je bilo všeč, ker vidim, da te misli, ki jih je gospa razložila, ne samo, da so del mojih misli, ker pa sva 13 milijard let stara, pa jih trenutno zgoščujem eno knjigo pa en članek akademski. Tisto, kjer pa jaz še nisem bil pred tem predavanjem, to sem hotel podati, kaj sem slišal, kar prej nisem vedel, pa je to, kar je rekla, ona je to pač imenovala ljubezen. Pa je dala 3 primere za to, da ne bomo si vsak svojo ljubezen predstavljali. In jaz imam mačka in moja soseda ima trenutno 2 mačka, ali ima 3, 2. Te 2, ki jih ima trenutno, sta brat pa sestra. Moje pa fant. In seveda prideta brat in sestra k mojemu na obisk v Atrij in bi tudi kaj pojedla. In je zanimivo, da sestra, kaj dobi moj maček, črt, moj ime, nekaj črtast, nima nobenih težav. Pa ga ni nihče vzgajal v šoli. Se strinjam z vami, to okoli teh test, okoli šole pa izobraževanja. Če pa dobi sosedov tudi za jest, mu pa je manj prav. Ponavadi sicer ga pusti, da poje do konca, pol ga pa napodi, medtem ko sosede pa ne. Tako da, kaj zdaj je razlika med njima, med sosedom pa sosedom, je verjetno ta, bom rekel, bolj prozaična moško-ženska ljubezen. Zdaj, če bi se črt naučil imeti še soseda rad na nek način, pa na nek način ga ima, ker ga pusti do konca poje, pa ga še lepo nažene. Mogoče ima gospa tukaj prav, da lahko ta princip, v katerega usmerjamo to komunikacijo, na naš vpliv na druge pa nase, morda lahko poimenujemo ljubezen, iz tega potem iščemo načine. To se mi zdi, da sem slišal. Zanimivo.
Super.
Jaz bi se pa mogoče navezala na to, par od nas, oziroma vas je že rekli, strah. Mislim, da pri tem je pomembno zaupanje, oziroma popolna predaja. Pa ne predaja v smislu, da se predaš in se izgubiš, ker izgubiš voljo, zaupanje, ampak da se popolnoma predaš temu, ker veš, da smo vsi eno in da smo povezani in da se mogoče malo hecno sliši poskrbljeno za nas. Ne? Ampak če je res to popolno zaupanje pa predaja, ni nobenega strahu, ker veš, da bo v redu in da je v redu. In na ta način smo tudi mi vsi povezani.
Super, si povedala to, kar je meni krožilo po glavi, ker sem v strahu na tej strani začela poslušati. Super. Ta predaja pa ni tako enostavna, ne? In zato imamo s strahom izzive.
Pa hvaležnost.
Ja.
Se mi zdi, da se učiš, in kje sem prebrala, je attitude of gratitude, da začneš to prakticirati. Ne?
Ja.
Pričakovanja, če imaš previsoka, ni dobro. No, in tako si vedno razočaran, se mi zdi. Ampak če si hvaležen sproti tukaj zdaj, ne, zato, ker je...
To je to, kar večkrat uporabimo, ta go with the flow, ne? Ampak to res, to predajo, zaupanje, da se zgodijo in da vse, kar se zgodi, je prav, je tukaj.
Mislim, da je to zelo povezano s tem sprejemanjem vsega tako, kot je. Ne z idealnim, da bi morali biti vse lepo, ampak zavedanjem, da je in takšno in drugačno. Vse samo je. In če to sprejmeš in sprejemaš, potem je to zelo povezano s predajo tudi.
Jaz pa nisem prepričana, če sem dobro razumela, o tem univerzumu, a so stvari že v bistvu dosti vnaprej tudi definirane, mogoče ne. Se pravi, mi jih ko kreiramo. In ni nobene, recimo, kot je Barbara rekla, ni sigurnosti, mi si v bistvu delamo sigurnost s tem, ko v neki verjamemo oziroma se prepustimo, ne?
Veliko boljše bi bilo verjetno za nas, tako jaz razmišljam, če bi se znali res 100% predati. Sam mislim, da ga ni junaka.
En primer knjiga Anite Morjani, če ste slišali. Ona o tem govori, ne?
Čudežna zdravitev.
Ja.
Dying to be me.
Je. Mislim, tukaj opisovala o teh občutkih po njenem procesu, ne? In to je to, se mi zdi.
Ksenijo, mogoče malo drugačno razmišljanje, ker ravno zdaj, ko smo omenili mačke, ne, in to njihove, te njihove primarne nagone in potrebo po zadovoljevanju potreb. A je sploh možno doseči, ne, tisto univerzalno ljubezen? Ker namreč vedno so tu potrebe, ne, mačke nihče ni učil, ne, mačka niti nima, ne, razvitega čelnega režnja v tem smislu, da preko tega, ne, tudi ugotavlja, vedno znova čekira samo sebe, ali je to prav, kar je naredila ali ni, ne, ona se pač bori za tisto svojo hrano, za preživetje. Kar pa mogoče pozabljamo, ne, ljudje smo pogosto takšni kot te mačke, ne, ki se trudimo, da zadovoljimo svoje potrebe. In premalo vklapljamo, ne, to, kar je Danah omenjala, ne, tista 2% človečnosti. In nekako sem že med enim predavanjem razmišljal, ne, vedno znova nas bo v tej želji, da pridemo do tiste univerzalne ljubezni, ne, vleklo nazaj. Ne, to je tista, rečemo, nečloveška narava, ne, tisto, kar imamo v sebi in ne moremo kar tako hitro odstraniti. Ne. Tu smo zdaj že pri tej obrnjeni Maslovi piramidi potreb. Ampak če vsakič znova, ne glede na to, koliko nas potegne nazaj, ne, v ta svet potreb, naš primarni svet, se vedno znova potrudimo, da spet skušamo vzpostaviti to ravnovesje, bomo vedno, ne vem, kanček dosegli več, vedno znova. Ne. To nekako bi izgledalo tako vse skupaj, ne, ampak vsakič pridemo vsaj kak milimeter malo više.
Iz tega je tudi naš slogan, biti boljši. In zato Danah vsakič, res ob vsaki priložnosti nas vabi na to, da reflektiramo svoje dneve, ne? Da se umirjamo, skalibriramo sami s sabo, da v bistvu vzpostavimo tako eno distanco do tega, kar se nam je skozi dan dogajalo, ne? In gremo lahko v novi dan kot nepopisan list papirja. Zato ker ta, bom rekla, sila entropije deluje. Ne? In tako, Gregor je že bil na enem srečanju z Dano ta teden, ne? In govorila je, da nas od šimpanzov loči samo 2%, ne? in to je ta človeški del. In 2% je malo, se pravi, se rabiš res potruditi, da aktiviraš ta 2%. Drugače so pa vse te, ti naši stari možgani, te dinozavrčki znotraj nas so aktivni. In če se mi ne umirimo, če ne najdemo tega stika s sabo, potem oni vodijo igro, pa ne vodimo mi, ta sprednji del teh 2% ne aktiviramo. In tu se rabimo več potruditi. In to je ta odgovornost, tako jo jaz vidim, da res se zavedamo teh 2%, tudi če sta 2%, ok, ampak jih imam in to me razlikuje od ostalih živih biti in to je moja odgovornost, da to aktiviram.
To je naš kvantum vakuum, ne?
Ja. Tako in ja, meni daje smisel, da brcam naprej. Ok. Tako vam bom dala za razmislek, za doma, za domačo nalogo. Mi v BB-ju skozi dajemo domače naloge. Da naredite, koliko od vas tako verjame, da je že našlo svoje poslanstvo, smisel v življenju? Sem predvidevala, da vas je kar nekaj. Ja? Tako ali pa saj se vam zdi, da ste že zelo blizu, tizga, ja? Ker vedno znova je tudi fajn malo preverjati, smo res tam ali ne. Dajte si to zapisati, se pravi, da verbalizirate, poskusite to spraviti v nek stavek, 2, 3, kaj mislite, da je vaše poslanstvo. Ja? Dajte tako na en velik papir, zadnje čase rada tako na veliko, pišem pa rišem. Ja? In potem se tako, lahko si date kako dobro muziko gor, nekaj, kar vas bo inspiriralo, lahko se zdite v tišini, lahko si tako, kot mi z Dano narediva ta teden, vsakič znova, ko zaključiva, kozarec rdečega vina in ne boste verjeli, skoraj sem začela kaditi z Dano. Ja. Ampak jaz sem se prepustila in mislim, da je v redu zame. Ja? Se pravi, najdite si tisti svoj stol, udoben prostor, čas, to, kar vas bo naredilo in napolnilo z mirom. In pobrskite po svojih življenjih, kaj je tisto, kar vas je pripeljalo do tega poslanstva, da to počnete, kar počnete. Se pravi, razmišljite o ljudeh, ki ste jih srečali, o izkušnjah, ki ste jih doživeli, o učenjih iz teh izkušenj, bolečih, nebolečih, večjih, manjših. Ja? O svojih vrednotah, tisto, kar vam je res pomembno, sveto v življenju. In na tak način lahko malo preverite, a to poslanstvo in vse te stvari pašejo skupaj, a se to zlije. A je to? A ni to? A mislite, wow, te moje izkušnje, ta moja učenja, vse to, kar sem že dal čez, me lahko popelje dlje. Si lahko mogoče bolj ambiciozno neke stvari postavim. Se lahko premikam naprej. Tako da en tak zemljevid, jaz rečem temu, svoj si naredite. In na ta zemljevid itak lahko, ko odkrivate to pokrajino svojo, lahko dodajate tiste skrite kotičke, kraje, doline, vrhove in ustvarite svojo mapo. Ja? Pa lahko to poslikate, pa mi kdaj pošljete, pa mi kaj napišete. Ja? In bom zelo vesela. Jaz bom pa tudi kaj z vami delila, kako svojo zgodbo.
Lahko sem nekaj dodam temu, to si tako lepo povedala, res. Ampak v pomoč, dajte zapreti oči, pa sam pomislite, kdaj ste se super počutili, pa kaj ste takrat delali. Ampak res dobro počutili, res. Pa lahko je, ne sem misliti, no, pejte v srce besed, ne vem, Boža kuška, no, pa ste se super počutili, ne vem. Pa dajte z tega pa razdelati, kaj je vaše poslanstvo, ker ta občutek, kdaj ste bili res srečni, vam kaže vaše poslanstvo, ki ga pa seveda lahko delate naprej v karieri, ne vem, lahko.
Si me spomnila, Tanja, na eno zgodbo. Jaz sem se včasih, ampak se tudi še s coachingom veliko ukvarjam, kariernim coachingom. In sem neverjetno res ponosna na eno zgodbo, ki je prišel k meni gospod pri 40 plus in je z diplomo iz elektrotehnike, se pravi inženir, tvoj verjetno kolega, in MBA je imel. In je prišel in je rekel, Ksenija, jaz nisem srečen, to, kar počnem, ta služba, jaz mislim, da moram nekaj drugega. Ok, pa pojva raziskovati, sem rekla, ne? In sva se tako enkrat, dvakrat srečala. In ko sem, eno izmed vprašanj je bilo tudi to, ko si ti rekla, ok, daj, rečemo mu Janez, ne? Da priuči, umir, sem imela sva res že odnos narejen, zaupal mi je in tako. Ko pomisliš na svoje otroštvo, katera slikca ti najprej pride tako pred oči? Je kar dosti vizualni tip. In on meni reče, wow, na železniški postaji sedim na klopci in gledam vlake, ki se vozijo mimo. Vsakič po šoli sem šel, vsakič, ko je bilo 5 minut, nekje na Štajerskem mi je preživljal otroštvo, sem letel na železniško postajo in gledal. In moji so rekli, ti si nor. Ok, da skrajšam zgodbo, kam sva midva prišla. On je danes pilot, naredil v bistvu vse, kar je bilo potrebno narediti. Imel je sicer nekaj izzivov z zdravjem, ampak tudi to smo premagali. In iz tistega v bistvu opazovanja vlaka in ko je meni on govoril, kaj tam čuti, ko je gledal tiste vlake in podoživljal ta občutja, je bila ta svoboda gibanja. Ok, in potem sva skozi en proces prišla, letenje. Tako da danes se je preselil tudi, ker je bil prestar, da bi ga Adrija vzela za pilota. Bil je res že 48, ko je zaključil vso to zgodbo. Ja. In je sicer, mislim, da je ne dvakrat poskusil na Adriji. Zdaj sem sicer malo izgubila stik z njim, ampak nekje na Daljnem vzhodu za eno od teh družb leti. Ja, tako. Moram reči, da... Jaz sem se čutila takrat grozen odgovorno, tako sem mu skozi govorila, glej se, če misliš, da to ni to. In bolj, ko sem jaz govorila, če ti misliš, da to ni to, bolj je on. Ampak je bilo res močno. Prav se spomnim zdaj enega trenutka, ki me je poklical in je rekel, da si je kupil, a veste, to torbo, ki imajo piloti. In sem se rekel, ok, on še zares ni začel v šolo hoditi. Sem že jaz malo podvomila vse skupaj. In sem rekel, ok, v redu. In zdaj hodim, a veš, na Brnik, gor v ono kafeterijo, ki piloti pridejo po službi in jaz tudi pridem s torbo, si dam eno temno obleko gor, in tam sedim in pijem kavo. Ok. In pravi, a greš z mano? A se dobiva naslednjič na Brniku? In si mislila, ok. In sem šla, in ta človek, ta je bil že v filmu noter, ta je že letel. Mislim, to je res neverjetna moč vizualizacije.
To je tako, ker ne vem, recimo prej smo govorili omenjena pa Kozmusa, ko je treniral.
Ja, isto.
Vsak detalj je na treneru, kot bo vrgel tisto.
In to je res, se mi zdi ta feeling, da odkleneš tisti potencial, ki je v nas. In to doživljamo verjetno v svojih timih, ko najdete pri sodelavcu, pri sodelavki res tisti gumb, rečem jaz, ali pa prav ključ za ključavnico, ko to odklenete, ko to butne ven. In to več ne morete ustaviti. To je kot snežna kepa. Nič več ne more ustaviti.
Kar se mi tukaj zdi pomembno, je, da recimo, če to odnos ne vem nadrejenih podrejenih vezano, sodelavec, se pravi tisti, ki je odklenil gumb v drugem, da je bolj pomembno, kot karkoli naredi, to kdo je. človek, ki dovoljuje to drugemu, ki meri kontekst, da drugi lahko direktno odklene svoj dom.
Ja, ja.
To je zelo pomembno delo tega, recimo, vodje v tem kontekstu.
Zato se velikokrat o tem govorimo, pa se mogoče niti ne zavedamo, kaj za tem ozadje je, kakšno odgovornost, to, kar je Gregor rekel, ne, nosi vodja, tudi kadrovik, ki je vsak dan v stiku, ne, sodelavci. Ja, ker, ne.
Tukaj notri ta allowing pa surrender pride ta izjemno upoštev. Ti v bistvu naveš, kaj točno se bo razvilo iz tistega človeka.
In moram reči, da v tem primeru, ko sem delila z vami, mene je bilo velikokrat zelo strah. Ker sem si mislila, Ksenija, kaj si to zdaj? A ne?
Kaj je bilo tega treba?
Ja, nekakšno.
To ti šola,
Ja.
šola ti je to not podstavlja, veš?
Vem, ja. Res. Jaz, ki je odhajal od mene, vsakič znova sem bila tako za mizo, moj bog, a ne. Ja.
A lahko je še en izraz?
Dajmo zdaj tako mogoče neformalno, 10 minut.
A lahko samo en izraz,
Daj.
ki me žul zdaj, že veš?
Te žul, prav pa kar kamenček ven iz čevlja.
Namreč vzpodbuda mi je bila hvaležnost. Ena beseda, ki jo jaz pogrešam, da bi jo znali v pravem pomenu, njenem pravem pomenu uporabljati, je milost. Namreč milost je nekaj, kar izhaja iz te absolutne ljubezni, jaz si pravim, sicer kozmična ljubezen. Jaz sem imel mogoče to srečo, da sem se nekoč dotaknil tega in sem to dojel, ampak moram povedati, da v vsakdanjem življenju, v vseh napadih, ki jih imam na sebe, se mi velikokrat zgodi, da se moram spomniti, da to obstaja. Ne? Ampak obstaja, ne? In tisto, kar jaz pogrešam, ne? Sicer mogoče bi lahko rekel, da je to en delček empatije, ampak ta milost, to je en poseben vrste odnos do sočloveka, ki ga z največjim spoštovanjem jemlješ takšnega, kakršen je.
Brezpogojno.
Ja.
Brezpogojna ljubezen.
In zato se mi zdi, da je to, ko smo že o teh, pa o zaupanju, ko se pač pogovarjamo o teh pojmih, ki so v odnosih izredno pomembni. Jaz mislim, da milost je tudi sodi v to, zato se nekaj moram preveriti, kaj drugi mislijo.
Ja. Jaz zdaj sicer manjkrat milost uporabljam, pa smo jo veliko, a ne? Ampak večkrat uporabim sočutje. Punce so me enkrat ujele pri eni misli in zdaj visi tam na naši pisarni, ko sem tako rekla, kdo je to tako pametno izrekel? In so se smejale. Ja, mogoče Anja pove. Tisti, ki še ne veste, Anja je naša nova sodelavka. Od 1.9. z novim šolskim letom. Part-time, s 1.2.2018. Ja, tu nekje, ja. Pa full-time.
Največje sočutje je naučiti druge, da si pomagajo sebi.
Ja. Pomagati drugim, da pomagajo sebi. Ja. Super. Pipi, pauza? Ja? 10 minut? Super. Evo ga. Smo ready za nadaljevanje. Danah je spet z nami.
Speak in English, or you're not going to say anything? We're just going to ask you to speak in English if you're saying something. It gives me a sense of disconnection when something's been said that I don't understand, and then I have to speak.
We are all connected.
Okay, you're all connected, good.
So please, Danah.
Okay. So I said this afternoon I would concentrate on the quantum organization and the quantum leader and apply the things we talked about before I left really to business and the organization and to what the Chinese call quantum management. And if there's time, I'd like to tell you how all this happens in a Chinese company that I actually work with, that was purposefully designed by the CEO reading my work and transforming the company intentionally into a quantum company. Just to give you a kind of framework, I compared Newtonian physics and quantum physics. I'd like to give you a very quick sketch of how the Newtonian organization contrasts with the quantum organization. The Newtonian organization, as I said this morning, is conceived of as a machine with laws and forces, i.e. it's bureaucratic, it's rule-bound. There are set procedures for doing things. It's kind of predictable because everybody has his or her assigned task, follows the instructions of the CEO or chairman, whoever's at the top of the company. And it works according to a blueprint. Indeed, it depends for its functioning on stability and goes for stability. One of the prime values of the Newtonian Corporation is let's stabilize things. The quantum organization, like the quantum universe, is first of all conceived of as a conscious living organism, as a self-organizing system, just as all of life is a self-organizing system. The quantum organization realizes that organizations are made of people, not component parts. People have motivations, values, emotions, biases, moods, ideologies, and all of these things feed into the way the system works. So in my latest book, I talk about quantum systems dynamics. And the difference between quantum systems dynamics and normal systems dynamics is that quantum systems dynamics takes on board that more what people are really like and how it affects the organization. Newtonian organizations are atomistic. They have their separate parts, their separate functions. People tend to perform within their function. There's often not a lot of communication between people in the different functions. If I join a Newtonian company, I'm trained to work in sales or trained to work in production, or I'm a scientist who's been hired to work in R&D. I don't usually know the skills required or the jobs that are being done in the other departments. In the quantum company, by contrast, which is holistic and self-organizing and is conceived of as an energy system, where it's realized that everything affects everything else and everything is connected. There's a great emphasis now upon transparency, truth, and some knowledge of the whole. Everybody working in a quantum company should know at least a bit about what everybody else has to do, understand his or her function. In Marks and Spencer, which was managed by a quantum managing director, and I worked with them for a while, it's required that even if you're going to be fast-tracked for senior leadership, you have to begin your job on the sales floor. You have to work at least 6 months on the sales floor, and then a little bit of time working your way up. And then suddenly you're in management. But they expect the people who manage the company to know a little bit about what everybody in the company has to do. And it is self-organizing. So therefore, from the Newtonian company having power at the top, which flows downward through a pyramid of power, the quantum company ideally has many centers of power. Because in the Newtonian company, with its power from the top, the employee is seen as a passive unit of production. He or she is there to perform his function, his assigned function. Whereas in the quantum company, with its many centers of power, the employee is seen as a co-creative partner in the system. In short, he's living in a participatory universe. He or she is empowered to use his talents to the fullest, to have encouraged to ask questions, encouraged to have creative ideas, encouraged to take the initiative, and allowed much more to just get on with it. So people work in self-organizing teams. The Newtonian organization has one best way of doing things usually. There are strategy meetings at which you'll come up with our strategy is going to be for the next X months or X years. Though one problem with all business, even quantum businesses, unless they do something about it, and I'll tell you how Marks and Spencer did, we have this structure of quarterly returns to the shareholders. And it gives the same problem to companies as democratic elections give to democracies. You can't make a long-term plan. You can't really plan for the future. One Japanese company, I think it was, begins with an M. What's the Japanese company? Mitsubishi had a 200-year plan. In the West, in our structure of quarterly returns, 3 months. And everything can go topsy-turvy because the shareholders complain. But in order to reach the best quarterly returns in the Newtonian company, a decision is usually made. We'll do this. We'll concentrate on this product. We'll concentrate on this market, etc. Whereas the quantum company, like the lights, will say, oh, we could do this, we could do that, we could do that, and maybe we'll do them all. And I'll tell you how this Chinese company does actually do that. But it sees there are many best ways, or at least many viable ways worth testing out. There might be many products you want to put out there to see which is the more successful, etc. In the Newtonian company, customers get what they're given. I held a session, was it yesterday? Tuesday, I think it was, where people were talking about companies and everything, and I noticed at the end and commented, not one of you has mentioned the customer. We were talking about leadership and our jobs and how we feel. No one, out of 100 people that were present, mentioned the customer. Because the customer in the Newtonian business world is also a passive witness. He gets what goes on the market. In the quantum company, there is a great deal of, just as a quantum system and a complex adaptive system is in constant dialogue with its environment, and it's called adaptive because it creatively adapts to its environment. In a quantum company, the customer and the market are the environment, part of it, an important part of it, and the customer tends to be the boss. At this Chinese company I'm going to talk about, all over the walls in their room where they receive visitors and show them products and things, there are two things. Everyone at hire is a leader, and the customer is the boss. Those are the two slogans of the company. Competition is the rule amongst Newtonian companies, beat your competition. I had an amusing experience when I was asked to speak to Shell's Leadership Council in America, all about their wonderful transformation and how they were going to be good people now and have good values and everything. And the CEO then said, and why are we doing this? So we can beat the hell out of the competition. So much for niceness. The quantum company tends to see even competitors as a kind of partner with whom you cooperate. As this managing director said at Marks and Spencer, if my store is in a shopping mall, people come to shop at one of the other stores. I want that store to be a success because it's drawing people to the mall and they'll come to my store. So you want everybody to be doing quite well. If the business environment is poor, everybody's going to suffer. So you want your so-called competitors also to succeed. And also within the company, there's not competition between the teams, there's cooperation between the teams. Let's everybody work together. In quantum physics, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So where you have a relationship, a positive, motivated relationship, cooperation, again, creates further reality. It gives your company more. In the Newtonian company, as we all know, the bottom line, the central value, is the bottom line profit. What's the share value for the shareholders? I've asked so many business people, just as a little test, what is business for? And they say business is to make money. And who is it to make money for? The shareholders. The quantum company realizes that it's contextual, that it's in relationship, that it's in dialogue with its environment, and it has a different set of values for success. One is still make money. I mean, that is the business of business. It's just, I'm going to argue, not the only business of business, and that if that's the one you concentrate on, you'll be less successful than if you think of the wider picture. Andre here was brought in to manage a glass factory in one of the Slovenian valleys. Tell them, well, you probably all know the name of, I can't pronounce it, just say the name of it. They all know it, okay. I will just call it the glass factory because my Slovenian is awful. But he told me that when he took on the job, his central motivation was the jobs. There were 3 industries in the valley at the time, a mining industry, something else, cement, and this glass factory, and the other 2 had closed. And the 750 jobs at the glass factory were the last jobs in the valley. And if the glass factory failed, as it was, there would be no jobs in the valley, and the valley would die. So Andre's first motive was, I'm going to save those jobs. How much more uplifting, how much more positive would the motivation of a company be if it thought of itself, the business of business is to create jobs. The whole economy needs people to have jobs. And business needs the economy to be healthy. But it's a more positive way to look at it. Rather than how much money can we squeeze out of our customers for our shareholders, how many jobs can we save or create? Most big companies give a little bit to some kind of charity or they sponsor some sports event. But with Andre's glass company, like the Chinese company and any company that is a quantum company, service to the community is a value. So he sponsors a canoe and boating club, he sponsors a sports team, he opens his canteen to the people in the valley because there's no restaurant in the valley, and he serves good food. And he cares for the community. The employee. Is business for the employee, or does the employee work for business? Well, in a Newtonian company, the employee works for the business. In a quantum company, the business works for the employee. The happy employee, the creative employee, the self-motivated employee, the employee who finds meaning and even fun in his work is far more productive, far more loyal, and will give of him or herself willingly, often without pay or for extra pay. Again, at the glass factory, Andre needed them to work overtime at first without any extra pay if he was going to turn things around. because they believed in him, felt he was a good guy, and wanted to help him, and knew that by helping him they would help themselves, they worked overtime for no extra pay. People will do that. You'll come into the office early, you'll stay at the office late. You'll put that extra bit in if you feel that you're somehow involved, that you can own your work, you can own your job, that it's something to do with you and it's meaningful. I spoke to a group of 100 CEOs of power companies in Britain, and I mentioned the big problem we're all concerned about, climate change and global warming, and of course power companies are one of the main culprits. And I noticed that during our session nobody was talking about the environment, and I said to them, don't you guys care about the environment? And they replied, the environment is the government's business. Our business is our shareholders. That's not quantum. I mean, we all breathe the same air. We're all going to collapse if the planet collapses. A company must, and it's located in the environment, contextual. It lives and breathes the environment. Of course the environment is one of the concerns in your, your triple or whatever you want to call it bottom line. And then the prime value in a Newtonian company is efficiency. How much money you make, how quickly, how much you can suck out of the customer with the littlest cost, how much you can get out of the employee with the smallest amount of pay. Efficiency. The prime value in a quantum company is service. Service to the employee, service to the customer, service to the community, service to the planet, service to future generations, and I would like to think service to life itself. So those are the schematic structural differences between the Newtonian company and the quantum company. The company I keep talking about in China is Haier, which many of you may have heard of. Haier, it began as a white goods company, but now it's China's largest, and indeed I believe the world's largest market share of domestic appliances. Last January they bought GE in America, which upped their market share considerably. And as I said, I discovered only in June when he took me to his private library and showed me my books going back 25 years. He's been following me and my books for 25 years. He's had them all privately translated into Chinese for him if they didn't come out in Chinese. And he consciously decided that the quantum way was the way to have a successful and meaningful company. So he consciously set out to follow the principles of what he calls my quantum management. First of all, the power structure. He got rid of middle management. He didn't fire them, didn't make them redundant. He made every middle manager the CEO of his own business team. They began with 250 of these business teams. Today they have 4,500 of them. Every team leader of a business unit is the CEO of his or her own company. Each business team, which consists of 6 to a maximum of 20 people, deals with its own customers, does its own customer research through the internet to telephone or even personal face-to-face meetings, asks the customer what they want, what they would like to have in their home, what would make life easier or simpler for them or more pleasant for them. Each business unit then suggests to Haier, the company, a product that will be that team's product. They then go to Haier with this idea and say, our customers want this product. Here's a prototype design we've come up with. We think we could make it and market it. If the company likes it, it gives them startup capital, just as though every little business unit is a startup company. And the R&D department of Haier as a whole will do the R&D for the product, The product then comes back to the business team. They market it. They do the after-sales service. They follow up with the customer, and so on. That way, as I said with the quantum lights, hire is having 4,500 strategies. Testing out 4,500 products at a time. And these are allowed to fail. So the motivation that drives most people in most businesses, the fear of innovation, the fear of risk because you might fail, and the fear of failure means you lose your job, or you're scolded by the boss, or you're demoted. There's no fear at hire, because if your product fails, fair enough, you tried. You did something new, you offered the market something new, it wasn't a success. They'll close down your business unit, but they won't let you go. You'll go back into the labor pool, and you'll be assigned to some other business unit where the product interests you. So there's no fear of failure. Internally, therefore, there is competition, which is always a bit good in a market system, between the business units, for the startup capital funds that hire will provide. You kind of go into a competition with your suggested product. But once you're making your product, all the teams overlap and cooperate to help each other with their product and their service and so on. So there's a quantum balance of competition and cooperation, and a cross-fertilization of ideas within the company. The customer, as I say, is the boss at hire. That's their slogan, and that's how they behave. The initiation of any product begins with talking to customers. And let me give you what is one of Hire's famous examples of how this works. As a white goods company, it made washing machines. And then it got a complaint from some of the farmers. When I wash my vegetables in the washing machine, it gets all clogged up with dirt. Something wrong with your washing machine, it's no good. Now, most companies would say, you damn fools, washing machines are not made to wash vegetables. Stop putting your vegetables in it. Hire, instead, where the customer's boss thought, well, a lot of the people buying our washing machines are farmers, and they want to wash their vegetables. So it put out a tender to the Chinese public, not just to Hire employees, to the Chinese public. We want some device we can fit into a washing machine that if you wash vegetables in it, it will absorb the dirt so that the dirt doesn't get into the mechanism of the machine. And then when you want to wash clothes in it, fine. Somebody out there in the Chinese public submitted an idea, a design for such a part. That citizen, who has nothing to do with Hire, but was allowed to be a creative partner of Hire, was given a lot of money for his idea, royalties on the machine that carried the part, was able to buy his own house and move up a class in society. And Hire does that. It includes the whole of China as partners in the company. The same with its transport. It doesn't own its own transport system. Instead, it has a kind of Uber system. Any driver in China can say, I'd like to be a Hire delivery man. So again, it spreads the wealth and the productivity value of Hire products with ordinary citizens who happen to be delivery men, that they get a chance to feed off the success of the company too. And then, like Andre, Hire does things for the community. It builds hospitals and schools in the rural districts, which are still quite poor in China. There was a big tsunami in China about, 7 or 8 years ago. The CEO said, I'm taking a leave of absence from the company. And for 3 months, he went down to one of the seaside villages and with his own hands helped to build houses. Okay, you say, what is one set of hands? Probably not a lot, but what did that do for his workforce? Mr. Zhang is out building houses for the tsunami, and that comes to something about the quantum leader. Zhang has been asked by lots of Western companies visit Hire because it's enormously successful, and they want to see what this Hire business model is like. And they're mind blown because he's given up all power, and they say to him, well, what's left to you? You don't have any power. And he says, well, what's left to me is service. He sees himself as a servant leader to his company and to the community. He uses the term servant leader. He runs his company through inspiration and example. Going to the seaside and building houses for 3 months with his own hands is an example to every employee in the company. You too can go serve the community with your own sweat and muscle. You too can serve, can give, and should. And because they love this man and his values and the fact that he walks the talk and is seen to walk the talk, his personality holds the company together. His values become the company values. He's almost like a guru to his company rather than a CEO. The quantum leader's person and personal development and the things he or she does in private time to build the self and make the self more aware and things are as important to the leadership as any decision that might be made. So the quantum leader is as much into self-development as he or she is into business development, because he sees there's no boundary between the two. And with the time I have left, which is just about enough time, I'll tell you the 12 principles by which a quantum leader practices his or her leadership, the principles that guide this leadership. They are also the principles that are instituted in the company as principles that give the company its direction, sense of purpose, and values. And again, I just gave a speech to 2,000 people at Hire in September. I was able to show how, with every one of these 12 principles, Hire practices them. I won't bother you with that because you're not working for Hire in anyway. But I can tell you that there is actually a company, a global company, employing directly 75,000 people and indirectly about 350,000 people that does practice these values, these principles, successfully. The first of which is to be self-aware. And that doesn't mean self-obsessed. In our culture, most people who go to self-awareness classes or go see a therapist to get to know themselves better, they're consumed by an obsession with their own tummy button. Me, me, me. What makes me happy? What makes me feel fulfilled? Self-awareness is not self-obsession. It's really getting to know yourself, the bad and the good, the strong and the weak, the potential versus the actual. I have these values, but do I actually practice them? I say these things, but do I actually do them? In the 50s, when I was a child, it was you did what your parents said, not what your parents did. Increasingly, today's children are more quantum. They look at their parents and say, well, you don't give up smoking, why shouldn't I take up smoking? You drink a lot, Dad, why shouldn't I drink a lot if I want to go out and have a good time? They know what their parents are doing and that they don't walk the talk. So the model is the parent's behavior. Self-awareness is knowing what I live for, and in extreme cases, even what I'd be willing to die for. It's knowing what gets me out of bed in the morning. And if I don't like getting out of bed in the morning, it's an awareness that I'm not doing the right thing and I need to do something that makes me feel happy to get out of bed in the morning. So self-awareness is also partly, am I in the right job, in the right function in my job? What do I need to freshen up my life, etc. The second principle, both for the company and the leader, is to be vision and value-led. Aspire to something, not just to being the best insurance company in Britain, as one company told me was their vision, but to ask, what does best mean? What would be the best of something? What would excellence mean to this company? What would really fulfill the reason this company was founded, the reason this company exists? And to have a vision that's larger than the immediate objective. So you always have something to build toward and aspire to, a pool of potentiality out of which to fish. And to have values that you're guided by. I have been with so many business people that carry these little cards in their wallets. Our company values are. And then they put them back in their wallets because they've never even read